Hi friends, let's talk a little bit about options to sit comfortably on the floor. I feel like it's a way overlooked topic and that the assumption is that I should be just able to go into my meditation, my yoga class, sit right on the floor and be fine with it, right? But it's a practice, it's strengthening just like anything else, and so it takes a little while to build up. Props are always going to be the most handy, and I will stand on the soapbox of props forever. So this video will talk about options for seated with props, and also with the assumption that you can get down to the floor. So those are my two caveats, right? We're going to have props and we're going to be able to get down to the floor for this one. So I've pulled down a bunch of props from my prop wall. Do not feel like you need to have all of these at home because there are endless options. And let's just go straight down the line, closest to farthest away, because likely you will have access to blankets, or at least one blanket or a towel to pad the floor. And something that is just kind of the main thought in why sitting on the floor is pretty uncomfortable for people, and an easy way to address it is that the knees being higher than the hips will push the tilt of the pelvis back, will tend to round us back and have us hunched here. Now, that can be just from the shape, and it can also be from tension in the hips. So, if this is something for you, like it is for a lot of people, most people, we don't need to put the undue pressure on the back. So we're going to put something underneath the hips. You could have the layer of your blanket simply just here with that height. Stack up as many as you want. You already saw that that tilted my pelvis forward. It got my hips and knees on more of the same level, and it made them a lot more comfortable. Now I pulled down two blankets because in my personal practice and my body, when I come to a seat on the floor, often it's not the tension in my hips that bothers me. It's the tension in my ankles. So being in that cross-legged seat is comfortable for the most part in my spine, in my hips, but it is not comfortable in my ankles. So I layer a blanket open one way, fold up the next. Now I'm perched like I was on the edge of that blanket to be able to be kind of just pushed off the side of it. And then I fold in the corners of my blanket. That lets my heels be a little bit higher, toes angle a little bit down, and it just relieves some pressure from my feet. Okay, that's me. You can always have a blanket around to, again, pad the seat of whatever else you end up sitting on. Block is the next really handy option, and most studios that you go to will have a block made out of something for you. Same idea. You could sit up on this block. Whoop, my foam's a little squishy. And let it tilt you forward a little bit. You can go higher, higher, higher. General rule: the higher the hips are above the knees, the easier it usually is for the spine to find its own alignment here. I'm not forcing alignment. I'm trying to put my body in the shape that I'm going to be able to find it on my own. Another thing that I love the block for, in case seated cross legs is not the best for you. Seated kneeling is another really common position for meditation or for your centering and grounding in your practice. And again, for me, it's my ankles giving me the biggest resistance. They are not into that idea. So I'm going to take my block, set it between my heels, and sit back on my block instead of just straight on my heels. And this can be good if you have any limitations: ankles, knees, hips. I could layer a blanket underneath this whole situation and be a lot more comfortable for a lot longer. I am going to show you kind of an obscure little prop that I just got because I love them so much. They're like little bolsters. So they're little bean pillows. And just for the sake of showing you some new different things, I will show you with my meditation cushion. So sometimes you'll hear this called a zafu. It's just filled with buckwheat. It's a pretty common cushion style. And again, you can probably sit pretty comfortably, grounding down through the seat, through the sits bones, and kind of get that nice form to kind of push you away. Now, maybe with some blocks or my little baby bolsters here, I'm going to pad up underneath my knees, and then, ooh, then I feel really grounded, right? In all of these points of my body, I can feel my hips, my knees, and my ankles. Like I could stay here for a while. We're never looking to, put the body in some position that it just absolutely can't stay in, right? We want to stretch the boundaries of that comfort zone to start learning new things. But if it's excruciating to sit here, then there's no point. So, we look for stillness, but if there's not stillness to be found when you are in your meditation seat or getting used to a seat, don't worry about, having to adjust sometimes. Maybe you have to shift around on the hips a little bit. You have to move the spine. You have to pull those shoulders up, roll them down. Let the little things wiggle out of the body and give yourself time, little doses to get used to this. Last one that I want to mention in our short little video is a bolster, which is really just a fancy word for pillow, right? So this bolster could obviously be a bench to sit on, or my personal favorite is to use it again in that seated kneeling. So I'm just gonna come knees on either side, sit back on it. I could layer up more and more height underneath my seat here, but it typically feels pretty grounding. So I've got a version of each of these props linked in the description and more details about them in my props section on my website. Otherwise, let me know if there's any other props that you use to sit comfortably on the floor. Let me know in the comments. I love the discussion. Our slogan, pain's a bitch, but yoga helps. See you in the next one.